On July 9, 1958, a wave taller than the Empire State Building exploded through Alaska's Lituya Bay, 1,720 feet high, the greatest tsunami in recorded history. Entire forests vanished in seconds. Boats and their crews were erased. Why did this forbidden fjord unleash such impossible violence? The forgotten warnings and eyewitness survival defy belief, and the danger has not gone away. Long before scientists measured a single wave, the Huna Tlingit recognized Lituya Bay as a place to be treated with deep caution. Oral tradition cast these waters as powerful and unpredictable, a realm where spirits could strike without warning. For generations, families avoided lingering in the bay, and elders spoke of its dangers in hushed tones. The bay's geography alone tells a story of hidden risk, a narrow fjord walled by steep mountains, carved by ancient glaciers and fed by shifting ice. At its head, unstable slopes tower above deep water, forming a natural arena for disaster. Physical evidence of past destruction is etched into the landscape. In 1936, a massive wave, later measured at nearly 500 feet, swept through Lituya Bay, flattening forests and sending logs tumbling far above the tide line. Geologist Don Miller, surveying the area in the 1950s, found sharp trim lines where all vegetation had been scoured away, the scars from at least 4 giant waves since the mid-1800s. Tree rings and buried sediment told of sudden violent floods that arrived without warning, sometimes decades apart. Each event left a clear boundary. Above it, bare rock and broken trees. Below it, the slow return of green. Despite these warnings, the bay's rich fishing grounds drew people back. Local knowledge spoke of strong tidal currents, hidden shoals, and the threat of sudden catastrophe, but the memory of past waves faded with time. Official records noted the 1936 wave and the unstable slopes, yet no formal hazard map or evacuation plan existed. The Fairweather Fault running beneath the bay was known for its seismic power, but few imagined how quickly the Earth could shift from calm to chaos. In this landscape, every element, steep mountains, deep water, shifting ice, and the restless Earth, combined to create a latent threat. The signs were visible to anyone who looked. Forests snapped like matchsticks, scars high on the slopes, stories passed down in caution. Yet on that July night in 1958, the bay's long history of violence was about to be written in a way the world had never seen. At 10:16 in the evening on July 9, 1958, the stillness over Lituya Bay shattered. The ground convulsed as a magnitude 7.8 earthquake ripped along the Fairweather Fault. In the moments that followed, fishermen anchored in the narrow fjord felt their boats lurch and sway as the world itself seemed to buckle. Howard Ulrich, aboard his wooden fishing boat with his 7-year-old son, watched the water churn and heard a roar that grew into a deafening freight train. In that instant, a slab of mountain, nearly 90 million tons of rock, broke free from 3,000 feet up the slope and plunged into Gilbert Inlet. The impact sent an explosion of water and debris skyward, dwarfing anything Ulrich had ever seen. He saw the wave rise not as a swell, but as a wall, climbing the opposite ridge and stripping the forest clean to a height no one could comprehend. The numbers would come later, 1,720 feet, taller than any skyscraper. But in that moment, it was simply a force of nature unleashed. Ulrich gripped the wheel as the bay heaved beneath him. The Idri, his boat, was lifted like a toy. He braced as the wave picked them up, carried them over the treetops, and hurled them down the length of the bay. The noise was relentless, a mix of splintering timber, crashing water, and the deep rumble of the earth settling. Ulrich's son screamed, then went silent as the boat surfed the wave crest, surrounded by uprooted trees and swirling logs. Somehow, the Idri stayed afloat. They rode the surge for nearly 2 miles before the water calmed and the silence returned, broken only by the sound of debris raining down. Not every boat was so lucky. Orville and Mickey Wagner, anchored aboard the Sunmore, were caught in the full force of the blast. Their vessel vanished, splintered by the wave. The Swansons, aboard the Badger, survived only by chance. Their boat submerged and then spit out into open water. By the time the water settled, 5 people in the bay were gone. 4 survived, each with a story of seconds that stretched into a lifetime, and a memory of a night when the mountain fell and the sea rose higher than anyone thought possible. Don Miller arrived at Lituya Bay just weeks after the wave, carrying a surveyor's altimeter, field notebooks, and a determination to let the land speak for itself. On the slopes above Gilbert Inlet, he found a boundary so stark it looked as if a knife had sliced through the forest. Trees below the line still stood, battered but alive. Above it, nothing but bare rock and shattered stumps. The hillside scoured clean to a height no one had ever measured from a wave. Miller paced the slope, taking readings every few yards. His altimeter registered a maximum of 1,720 feet above sea level, the highest point where the wave had stripped away every trace of vegetation. He mapped this trim line with careful hand-drawn sketches, marking the arc where the water had surged up the ridge. Aerial photographs taken by the Coast and Geodetic Survey confirmed what Miller saw on the ground. The photos revealed a wide, pale scar curving across the mountainside, matching Miller's measurements almost exactly. In the upper bay, the pattern repeated. Bands of new debris, snapped trunks, and a sharp transition to untouched forest below the line. The evidence was so clear, it silenced early skeptics who doubted a wave could reach such heights. To verify the timing, Miller and his team sampled trees at the trim line, boring into trunks to count rings and date the moment of destruction. Every core told the same story. Growth stopped abruptly in 1958, with no signs of regrowth above the line since. The physical and botanical evidence, combined with bathymetric surveys showing a deep new crater at the rockslide impact site, turned the devastation into hard data. The forest itself became a living record, its scars and boundaries more reliable than any eyewitness or newspaper headline. Miller's fieldwork set the standard for tsunami run-up measurement, providing the foundation for every model and simulation that would follow. Scaling a disaster of this magnitude from raw field evidence to scientific understanding required more than photographs and eyewitness accounts. In the years after 1958, R.L. Weigel's team at Berkeley built a 1:1,000 scale model of Lituya Bay. They used a precisely measured replica of the inlet, the same angle and distance, and a block of material matching the estimated 30 million cubic meters of rock. When they released the block at high speed into the model bay, the resulting splash and wave heights closely matched the 1,720-foot trim line documented by Don Miller. The laboratory runs, repeated with adjustments for slide speed and impact angle, consistently produced a towering surge, confirming that the physics of a single, incredibly fast rockslide could account for the observed devastation. Simulations took the baton decades later. Using digitized pre-1958 bathymetry and the latest landslide dynamics, numerical models, like the high-C code run by Gonzalez-Vida's group, reproduced the catastrophic run-up across the bay, even matching the precise arc of stripped forest. Modelers tweaked slide volume, density, and velocity, and found the best fit came from a single rapid mass, with no need for an outsized secondary event. Yet, when they incorporated the possibility of additional glacial sediment released by the impact, the simulated wave sometimes overshot reality, predicting trim lines even higher than what Miller measured. A puzzle still lingers. Post-event surveys found more infill on the bay floor than the rockslide alone could explain, hinting at hidden complexity. Perhaps a moderate release of subglacial sediment amplified the wave, or sediment was redistributed later. The consensus holds: a single high-speed rockslide is sufficient, but the precise contribution of sediment remains an open question. While tourists now cruise the bay, some local operators claim the risk is past. For scientists, the mechanics of Lituya's wave are now a textbook case, but the final word on what happened beneath the glacier that night is still out of reach. Lituya Bay's 1,720-foot wave is not just a record, it is a warning. As climate change accelerates glacial retreat and seismic activity, the risk of another megatsunami grows. Nature's extremes are not ancient history. They shape the world we face right now. Are we truly prepared for the next wave?